Dear Diary, how do you send off a great man like Bernard Circus? He meant much to many, even though not always the same. He was a father, first and foremost, to his family. He was a comrade and a leader to the left. He was an opponent and a personification of everything wrong to the right. He was a poet to all of us, even for those who disagreed with his views. And for at least one man, he was enough of a threat to end his life. Coming home from the funeral, I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, isn't that me as well? Will I meet the same fate? I refuse to let that thought dictate my actions, and I choose to believe that there are enough good people in our country who aren't out for blood and who will lower the rifle once their voices are heard and food is back on the table. It's worth fighting for, and I think Bernard would have agreed. That was indeed a very emotional episode last time, and I have to give it to the game. That has hit me somewhat. So let's see what the news are saying. And obviously they're probably going to cover the funeral in various ways. Whole sort post being probably somewhat neutral generally. Let's see how they cover the funeral. Only our strength is the will to survive. Okay, so they're quoting from the poem the line from the poem that I read. Huge crowds of mourners, including President Rain and other senior Swedish officials, joined under a rare display of unity, poured into the heart of Deir today to bid farewell to Bernard Circus, the poet and politician who was shot and killed at the gates of the Maroon Palace after Rain's inauguration ball. With hundreds of police officers in riot gear on duty and traffic barred on major thoroughfares, the normally chaotic section of the city took on a somber atmosphere. Millennialist anthems played from loudspeakers along Freedom Avenue as Swedish citizens of various ethnicities stood shoulder to shoulder, many of them in tears. This is the Whole Sort Post, so definitely not complaining about the left-leaning, the overall left-leaning framing of the whole thing. Others leaned out of windows or over balcony railings to watch the procession. President Rain gave a unifying message to all of Swordland by attending the funeral. He paid his respects to Circus and met with his close relatives. Rain also made an emotional speech that touched thousands of attendees. He finished his speech with a quote from Circus. Our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. Okay, we're going right back to it again, are we? I'm impressed with the respectful framing that they've put. I'm curious to see what Swordland Today is going to put out, because obviously it's going to be a hit piece, I know as much, and I don't expect anything less from Coronti. But maybe I'll be positively surprised, we will see. President stands together with Red Youth. Bernard Circus' funeral was held in Deir today among thousands of attendees. President Rain drew criticism when he agreed to attend the funeral. While the decision was not totally out of the ordinary, the fact that Rain is giving support to a known member of Red Youth who promoted millennialism throughout his life is unusual. No, it isn't. I have been very open about this. Later in the day, President Rain was seen together with a group of Red Youth members standing together and paying respects for Circus. Nationalists who saw Circus as a traitor heavily criticized the president's move, which will surely continue among the conservative wing of the United Swordland Party. Never would Sol have thought that his party would be led by someone who stands together with a communist who studied in the homeland of millennialism. Yeah, they had to find something. And obviously they are dragging the mud. But we have there's nothing else that we would expect from Swordland Today. They do make an interesting point, though, that obviously the more conservative or the more solist wing of the USP is going to be difficult. Let me put it that way, and not be overly happy about that particular direction of things. But then again, I mean, they're going to be anyway. What am I going to do? Pretend that we're not doing a planned economy while doing a planned economy? Pretend that we're not going for socialism while trying to implement socialism? The only thing you end up with that is a sort of bland nothingness that, to be honest, you find a lot in, without going on a tangent, but that's something you find a lot in today's politics, where politicians are mostly out for their own personal gain or for the gain of their respective interest groups. But there's very little in terms of idealism out there in order to follow a specific direction or lead a country into a specific direction. Of course, you would pretend to, but when it comes down to it, it's always the political opportune path, or take what you can, give nothing back. Let's see what the radical has to say. Obviously, they're going to be the polar opposite. So Swordland today is going to be starting to even more right-leaning, together with The Economist. The Whole Sword Post, positively surprised. Lacheven Times hasn't said anything, and Geopolitico has been quiet for a while as well. But then again, they cover foreign politics and not much has happened there. Thousands attend the funeral of Circus. Early in the day, mourners in Holsword gathered outside the Maroon Palace, where Bernard Circus was shot, holding identical black and white signs reading, "We are all Bernard Circus and we are all millennialists." The funeral took place in Deir amid tight security. White doves were released into the air and much of downtown Deir was closed to traffic. President Rain was among the thousands who attended the funeral. This is a positive indicator that gives us hope that the state might finally be giving up on a lynching culture and started to practice self-criticism. Okay, what have we exactly done to reinforce that particular view, or are they referring to previous times? Circus's murder has stirred debate about nationalism in Swordland and has been viewed with concern abroad, especially by the millennialist bloc of the East. Well, again, surprisingly critical article in the Radical, I would almost say. I would have expected a bit more positive feedback here. What lynching culture are we specifically talking about? It's certainly nothing that has been happened during... are they sour? Are they salty about? I don't know, that we haven't gone into martial law and locked up everybody who doesn't agree with them or something like that. I'm not sure. So and also an interesting point about the nationalism question. But of course, the Radical is hardline millennialist. So if it was up to them, we'd be doing a revolution, exiling or executing everybody who looked too smart for his own good, and then have the workers of the world unite. That's not exactly where we're going either. So we're not. I was hoping for more backing from them, but we will see. So far, interestingly enough, the one that's been it could be that we're unhappy that I didn't call for rise up in the streets, comrades, and put down the oppressor kind of things. That might be the reason why they weren't quite as happy as I thought they would have been. The Whole Sword Post, as a more central organ, seems to be the one has been mostly supportive of the whole thing. So. Shows that I'm in a good direction, I would argue. All right, so now that we've covered the news, graph still going down. Graph going down is bad. Graph needs to go up, especially if we see where the graph needs to be and where the graph currently is. There is a gap in between these things. Now, it's not as bad as it had been, but we're certainly making a 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing at the moment. I am still waiting for critical elements, like we need to discuss the foreign arming and support of terrorism. We need to discuss the violence in the street, political violence in the street. We need to discuss corruption. And we need to discuss the threat of Rumburg. So a few things, but let's see what comes up in Lacheven now. The diplomatic situation. Okay, important diplomacy gathering. Now, I am assuming that this has something to do with Rumburg, but maybe also this will finally allow us to start making diplomatic moves towards the major power blocks. And I think that would be an interesting one, because that touches both on the economic situation and on the and on the military situation. The door opened and David Vichy, once a lecturer to me, and now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way towards my desk. We have a quick recap. I remember him to be teaching at the Dare University, applied international law in disputes, and what else did he do? Became remembered for helping out 10,000 immigrants of Sordish and Bludish origin while serving as consul general in Luco and Lesbia. He became a respected name in the diplomatic scene of the Markian region, has been promoting social democracy and human rights in Swordland for decades, also known for criticizing the USP for opposing the Bludish people. I agree with him on that. Acknowledging the Bludish issue, which made him a target for the Solists and the Nationalists. Okay, so we're on the same page on that. And eventually joined the party during Alfonso's presidency. Due to his connection to President Artur Vichy, David is still seen as a controversial member of the USP. He is known to be a non-partisan and an opponent of Sol's policies. Although he publicly criticizes his own party, he worked closely with Reign and became Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade in 1953. So I believe we may have some differences. I think we had some differences when it came to economics when he was teaching, but in general, I think we have a lot more in common. He's a respected person on the diplomatic arena. He is non-partisan, so he doesn't let his own political convictions dictate diplomatic solutions, which is very pragmatic and useful in these sort of things. And he is clearly taking a front with the oppression of the Bludish people, which I completely agree with as well. So let's see what he's got for me today. May I sit down, Mr. President? He is a diplomat and my Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And my former professor. So I believe this would be out of place to just assume familiarity like this. So I'm going to, especially that he has opened with Mr. President. So he clearly doesn't necessarily wish to start out on a first name basis. We don't know each other that well, and this is not the time and place to change that. You change that over a drink or something like that. Pleasure to see you, Mr. Vichy. Likewise, we have so much ahead of us to accomplish. I agree. He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He's always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age has only served to deepen that. Yeah, definitely not. Yo, David bro, how's it hanging? That is not what we're going to go with here. That would be out of place. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, 4th president of Swordland. What a privilege for me. Okay, and now he opens up and addresses me by first name. So obviously he has seniority, both in status and in age, and he's my former professor. So he has to be the one to initiate that. I still remember the first day you took my class at Lockhaven School of Economics. Somehow the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here to positions where we can change the course of history. I agree. Okay, so we can call it fate. I would like to reply with the first name basis to affirm that, and to effectively confirm that change in relations. But everything happens for a reason. It was meant to be. What is this? The morning horoscope? We got a little lucky, that's all. Now, this is our opportunity to shape the future, and we will do precisely that. This sounds too aggressive because we don't shape the future. We do our best to influence it, but this sounds more like we will grab it by the throat and drag it kicking and screaming into the direction we wish to be. I'm not particularly liking any of the replies. The first one is a bit horoscopy, and religiously, which doesn't sit, I don't think necessarily sits well with a realist like him, and almost nihilistic, I would say. And this is a very aggressive answer, but well, he kind of started with it. Says we can change the course of history. So he's gone with the big picture. So then let's do it. Okay, let's agree. Let's do it. We will do precisely that. I'm looking forward to our new foreign policy. I'm excited to present you the latest bill I am working on. The TCPA has turned out to be an initiative that may significantly boost our tourism and culture industry. Not what I had in mind, but okay, that works for me. Let's see what you've got. So, as a sort of as a mental model, because obviously foreign policy will have, and he already highlights that foreign policy will have economic impact, and the tourist region is more this. This is more of the sort of historic old, and this is the Tuscany of Swordland. That's full of trees. This is full of nerds. This is full of oil. This is poor, and this is uppity. to channel my inner Clarkson here. Sorry. So ideally, I would have hoped that we would go more into the natural resources kind of thing, because that would really be more benefiting the Western Belt, which is where we have the economic malaise. Whereas tourism, let me put it this way: nobody wants to see rundown towns under a oppressive private police, or remote areas where poor people might be digging for oil. People want to see the beautiful landscape and the picturesque villages and quaint old towns in the center. So, not particularly what I was hoping. I was hoping for more for something that would support the heavier industry. Tourism is nice. It's in the wrong region, but we'll see what we can get. This untapped value would help us promote our position internationally. I'm convinced it can also help improve our economic condition after discussions with Ministers Hall and Manger. That's good. So if Simon is in on this, the GNA factions. What's a GNA? Factions are supportive too. I really shouldn't have worked overtime hours to get it done, but I really care for the position and value of our. Okay, something's interrupting here. So he's definitely very, very passionate about it. What was GNA? I can't type anything into search right now. I might just. Is that it's the Grand National Assembly. I got it. Yeah, the GNA, the Grand National Assembly. All right, who's interrupting him? So he's clearly. Okay, so let's before we go into the interruption, let's quickly analyze this. So he's making a relatively strong point. Obviously, he sees himself as a leader in terms of foreign policy, and he sees the ministerial position that he has almost in such a way as an opportunity for himself to make decisions. So the way he's putting this out here right now, he's both very heavily promoting it. So he said it significantly boosts our industry. He is networking with the other ministers. So he's been discussing that with my rural development and economics minister, and he sees them as on board with it, and he's pointing out that he's got political backing across the assembly, and he's pointing out that he spent some of his valuable and increasingly scarce time on this. So he's putting a high personal stake on this. What I'm looking at here effectively is that he sees himself in a position of power where he decides and I get to sign this off. I'm the president. Let's not forget that in the end. We'll have to see how that goes. So now who is interrupting him? He started coughing again, this time for longer. Would you like some tea or water? Yeah, I'm not going to ask him about his health. He is getting on there in age. Although old men like to talk about their health, I should know. I'm an old man. I could just... that would be rude. That could be perceived as a power play. So I think we're going with compassion. Would you like some tea or water? Oh yes, please. Tea and water sounds nice. Thank you very much. Even if he didn't need the tea or the water, and he was actually coughing because of health reasons rather than just a dry throat, he's a diplomat. So decorum is important, and showing weakness in diplomatic interactions is generally not something you do. So I would assume that if I was asking him about his health, he might see that as a challenge, actually. He smiled. Livia brought 2 cups of tea along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. All right, Livia, could you... I still don't trust her. I don't know what it is, but I still have that nagging feeling that whole task affair was too convenient. And I mean, the secretaries have clearly been chatting among each other, and I think she's smarter than she makes out to be. And I don't know if there was something with that Mr. Tusk affair. Anyway, she brought 2 cups along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. It seems you still remember how much I like tea. Nowadays, it really does wonders for my throat. And that is the diplomatic way of saying I'm old, my health is failing, but I will never admit to it. Okay, so we can go further down the path of this diversion and effectively keep going. Keep feeding into his ego. That's probably not a bad thing. So he's clearly he is well respected, but also that he has, as he has shown in the opening, he has a bit of an ego to go with it, and is of the opinion that what he prepared is what I'm just here to sign that off because he's the expert, and off we go. Also, the old teacher-student relationship obviously doesn't help. So I can continue on the personal line and effectively give him the time he needs to get back, or give him the opportunity to say when he wants to get back on topic, or I can start taking control over the conversation. Again, I think asking about your health is uncalled for, simply because it would effectively force him to admit weakness, and I don't think that's something he necessarily would want to. So he's happy that I remembered how much he liked cheese. Actually, I didn't. That was poor coincidence, but we're gonna go with it. I could ask about his wife, or I could ask about his niece. Let's ask about the niece. I think for an old man, talking about the next generations is always an interest. It's always a better one. So let's do that, and then let him take his time when he wants to get back to the conversation, because he's clearly the one who's passionate about it. Yes, she has. Spending time with Margie makes me happy. There's still much ahead of her in life. There's that feeling of mortality. Like, you have so many more plans and so many more things that you would want to do, but health gets in your way. To a degree, I mean, I'm nowhere near this old, but to a degree, I can sympathize with that feeling. So looking at the younger generations and their potential opportunities is a thing. Sometimes wish Catherine and I had children, but that ship sailed a long time ago. Oh dear. Okay. How's the Rain family? So he's he's continuing on the personal note. Okay. Slowly starting to get used to the routine. Monica is really taking to the first lady role. Is she? I would say she is, yes. I haven't really seen an awful lot just from the in-game interactions but I know that she's capable of doing these things because she did have leadership roles in the past. One of these two, I guess, since he likes talking about the kids. I'll talk about the kids as well. Frank never liked the spotlight, so that hasn't changed. As time passes, I realize it more. Family is the most important thing in life. We must take care of them. I agree, David. I agree. The door opened. Josef and Lucien joined us for the briefing as the tall case clock hit the hour mark. Okay, so we've got my Minister of Defense, who is going to be talking about Rumborg, I assume. And we've got Lucien, who is a generally appreciated razor blade of a mind. Takes no prisoners, that man. Petr, however, was missing. I wondered if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party in Lachhaven. Yeah, that would not be unusual. I will talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so, right. So he's, does he mean talk later about the foreign policy proposal or about personal matters? I'll take it as personal matters for now. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin, or do we want to continue? Do we want to continue the small talk? No, I think now that everyone's, that's a general rule. I personally follow in meetings. If there's only two people or maybe three people, you're going to have to you have. And we're still waiting for a few more people, then you can do some small talk to build personal connections. But if everyone's present, then you get on with it. You don't start more chatter because it starts wasting everybody's time. I'm going to apply the same here. So let's begin. I will start with providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with? Okay. We can talk about Agnolia, which would be in the north. We could talk about this one, yeah. Sorry, no, this is Angland. No, that's me. Agnolia is here. Yeah, so it is in the north, yeah. So our northern neighbor, which we had, I think, strained issues, and there were some trade negotiations that were that were problematic. Valksland, obviously, is where I want to go, both structurally and economically. And Velen was, I think, Velen was over here, yeah. So this Republic of Velen was the I think somewhat they have like bluish minorities there as well, and there was some history there. So well, let's get on with it. I might actually start with leave Valksland to the last, so we can, because I want to use that as a lead into a potential to closer economic ties and into our political orientation. So I'm going to leave that to last and tick off the other two first. There's also the smaller and less important neighbors in the grand scheme of things. Start with Agnolia. Our brotherly, in big air quotes, nation to our northeast, Agnolia. They are still diplomatically non-aligned and probably have one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors. Economic stagnation is a worry for them. Their primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us. Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around. I thought there was relatively heavy investment from them towards us. Okay, so they're clearly not happy because our economy is in shambles, which means that foreign investment isn't happening from our side either. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We have been allies for the longest time after Rumburg's action in the region. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Okay, so there's a potential for... yeah. This is it's going to be an interesting one. They're neutral. They're non-aligned. They are a relatively small nation with economic dependence on us. Which means that an alliance with this small nation, which is about the size of one of our states, isn't going to do much in terms of deterrence against Rumburg. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister Martin van Horten is expecting better cooperation through a new, fairer trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates. Okay. Right. So, okay. So we do have apparently a one-sided trade deal with Agnolia, and they are. Oh, so we're getting more out of that than they do. How big is Agnolia's economy really that it makes that much of a difference? I think having good relations with neighboring countries is important. But right now, not the most important part. What we could, I would really like some more. It's basically I basically have three options. I can say I'll stay neutral. I can say yes, we should renegotiate the trade deals, or I could say no, we were not going to, because we are. We have to look after ourselves here. Now, the economic situation obviously is the economic situation isn't good, which means losing potentially profitable parts of a trade deal would not help the overall situation. But before I make a decision on this, I would really like to know what this trade deal actually entails. I can't just say, hey, yes, let's renegotiate the deal. Oh yeah, by the way, what is this deal all about? What is our trade deal? Given recent real-world politics, I have come to loathe the term deal, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I need to know more. I think about it, matters still on the table. We could secure them as allies if we make concessions in the new agreement. Rumburg is a common threat. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Agno-Sordish citizens live in the Angland region of Swordland. That is a good point, actually. We do have a sizable minority here. So, which creates a link between foreign policy and our internal affairs. These people have suffered socioeconomically, which led them to crime and other problems. That is a very good point. In addition, a relaxed immigration policy was one of Agnolia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't even assimilated into Sordish culture. Adding more won't help. Okay, so we're getting a few more problems on the table here. It's a link between foreign policy and internal affairs, because we have a poverty and crime problem in Angland. We have potential socioeconomic problems, and we have problems. We have cultural and integration problems, as Josef points out. Now, Josef obviously wants to close the borders and not leave, while Agnolia wants to have, interestingly enough, a relaxed immigration policy. Why? That all humanitarian questions aside, why? A visa-free travel for vacation or something, sure. But why do you wish to have a relaxed immigration policy from your neighboring country? That would imply that Agnolia's intent is to export people. Why would you want that? Especially if you are economically struggling. So that raises a little bit of a red flag, because like the trade agreement I agree with. We should probably negotiate fairer trade agreements with our neighbors. But the immigration question is a weird one. Now, Anton has always been somebody who is a humanitarian. Monica is, Anton is, and that has gotten him into issues with the military. But Josef does have a point, because it is a structural. Angland is already a structurally weak region. It is already having a significant minority, and why would they ask for more ease of immigration? Is it just like a family reunification sort of thing, or is it a general request to just let more of their people to move over? So that almost gives me that almost feels like a slightly aggressive move, in terms of we want to create a significant, like, do they have territorial ambitions towards the region is my question. And are they trying to create a precedent in terms of large minority of our people being mistreated, negotiations broke down, must send troops kind of thing. I mean, that'd be suicidal, but I wouldn't rule out that at least the thought has been tabled, if there is war with Rumburg, that there might be an opportunity for them, because they are neutral after all, they are a close ally of ours, but would there be an opportunity for them for territorial expansion into this region here and take that over? I don't know. Why would they? It's the main export of this region is potholes, so I'm not entirely certain what's behind this. But yeah, Lucien has kind of hit it on hit the point here. This is difficult. So here we now have a clash between, like a perfect clash between pragmatic politics or responsible politics and ideology. Ideologically, Anton is in favor of, relaxing immigration, especially when it comes to things like refugees. From a practical perspective, there are, I think, a few good arguments to make to be skeptical about relaxed immigration. So maybe we can, because it makes no sense. I'm lacking at this point I'm lacking the picture of as to why. What is their motivation? Why would they want that? Do they just want to, especially with that he mentions that there are parallel cultures, and there's or do they want? Okay, it could be that they would like for their citizens to make their way not into the poor region, but once they cross the border, that they can settle anywhere and effectively increase the amount of migrants into more wealthy parts. Migrants then send money back home, or you have insights into you have more insights into things. Now, generally, it depends who migrates, right? Do they want to offload? The poor parts or the economically challenged parts of their population, saying, "Hey, we're gonna let you go into Holsord, richer neighbor and everything." Are they looking to just for opportunity? So there's positive parts as well, right? Are they looking for opportunities in terms of they have educated elites, but they have an insufficient industry themselves. So they would like the opportunity for them to work in our high tech sector. It's not that easy. So giving this very binary answer here, or the very binary option, makes it very difficult. I think there's a lot more nuance to this question than is given There's a very nuanced position here. And it's very, very difficult to make a purely binary choice here without any further context or information. Are we just talking general immigration? Okay, we'll have to assume we're just talking general immigration. We know not the details. What do we know? We know that currently our economy is in a difficult position. We know that we have a high unemployment rate. We know that we have integration problems with immigrants to a degree. And we know that it is a political ask from Agnolia for more immigration, which means that there are interest groups within Agnolia who wish to enable more immigration into Swordland from Agnolia, which means they have a vested interest for this to happen. I would argue that ideologically I would say yes, but from a practical perspective I would say no, because we are, as we currently stand, we are in a economically difficult situation, and we already have a high unemployment rate. We already have problems with minorities, and as such, increased immigration is not going to help. So I would say I'm skeptical about relaxed immigration. I'm not saying we're not doing it, but at this point I'm skeptical unless I would get a more compelling argument for it. We have already witnessed several society-shifting ways of migration. We should remember that we promised to tighten our immigration laws in the election campaign. Did we? Okay, they're good. I have no recollection of this, but it's entirely possible. I promised to tighten our immigration laws in the election campaign. Okay, what's the latest situation in Velen? Let's see what's going down in the south. It is tumultuous in the south as always. Viktor Smolak is expanding his powers among protests from Vejek people. However, he is quite positive about a normalization of relationship between our countries. Okay, let's get a little bit more context about these things, because I might have read that in the past, but what is the general situation there? So there recently came out of a civil war. Widespread starvation, disease, massive refugee crisis, formal end of the conflict in 1940. United Kontana established a peacekeeping brigade in 1937. Okay, remained until 1943. Protracted period of turmoil fueled strong anti-Akasian sentiment, which played a significant role in the rise of the Vejek nationalist party of Neurist socialism. Neurism is one of the religion, isn't it? Viktor Smolak, a pivotal figure during the post-war era, was elected president in 1943, subsequently steering the country towards a one-party state framework. Despite being rich in natural resources like oil and diamonds, Velen is considered to have one of the weakest economies in eastern Maricopa, exacerbated by its poor record on civil rights and political freedoms. It is often cited as the least favorable nation in Maricopa for starting a business. Velen is a member of the Organization for Development and the Alliance of Nations. Well, all of this is non-committal, participating actively in regional economic political initiatives. Okay, so Smolak himself, a prominent Vejek politician and the current president of Velen. He's also the commander-in-chief, that is not unusual, renowned for his staunch advocacy of Vejek nationalism with socialist characteristics. Oh. The combination of national and socialist tends to have certain historical connotations. He's the third president of the Republic of Velen, has been a pivotal figure in local politics. He founded the Vejek Nationalist Party, Religious Socialism. It's a weird, we're going to have to look into that in a minute. This new political entity amalgamated religious Neurist beliefs with Vejek nationalism and socialism. After surviving a decade filled with political battles, Smolak finally secured the presidency in 1943. He implemented severe measures against his political opponents, enacted strict censorship of the Vecek press, and confiscated the assets of multimillionaires. A vocal critic of Abkhazia, he blamed the royalists, liberals, and Democrats for the civil war and his subsequent Abkhazian involvement. Although previously an opponent of Malenyevist ideology, Smolak shifted his stance post-war and sought to align Velen more closely with United Kontana. Alliance proved beneficial as it facilitated significant financial aid from CSP. His vigorous promotion of Velen nationalism and adherence to Nur's doctrine also led to the oppression. So it's a theocracy to a degree. Oppression of ethnic and religious minorities within the country. His rule has been marked by the widespread persecution of the Bludish people, including thousands of arrests and deaths, along military campaigns against the Bludish Freedom Front, which established bases in northeast Velen. Okay, so this is a religious nation, but at the same time has ties east. Which is quite interesting because if the theory behind Malenyvism is about parallel to real-world Marxism, then religion would certainly not be playing a massive role in there. So this sounds more like it is not ideological alignment, but it's a geopolitical question. So the Kontana does not necessarily support them for ideological reasons, but support them in order to cause trouble for the Abkhazians. Official Republic of Velen. I've done this already. I thought I clicked on the Vecek. Apparently, they don't have their own. Okay, so they don't have their own entry. Right. So it's a single part. It's a theocracy. It's a theocratic dictatorship with east-leaning tendencies. I don't like many things about it. I think the whole east-leaning thing is a political thing rather than a human rights, workers' rights, socialism thing. I think the close ties between state and religion is not a good way of necessarily running a place. Although, again, that depends on the place. If the people there prefer it that way, that's one thing. But it sounds more like this is an established dictatorship. Now let's see what we need to look into. Despite purging the Vecek communists, reports indicate that they have been warming up to Kontanan international aid. Yeah, so they eliminated the communists, and at the same time would like to align with Kontana. So my intuition here was correct. This is political. So Kontana has an interest in political influence here, and is happy to support them despite their ideological differences, because this is a strong nationalist theocratic state. And probably uses the term socialism purely in a purely performative fashion. Velen stability was always a concern for the region. It is, because they do have a Bludish majority. I wonder if this is meant to be some odd form of Iran. It could be. They have a Bludish minority in the north. Yeah, that could work. And the interest from United Kontana here is purely for a political front line, a geopolitical or geostrategic front line, rather than for political alignment. But if we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. I still can't stomach the inhumanity these people suffered. Help whom exactly? Because we're looking at two very different entities here. So we have an oppressive dictatorship in the country that regularly mistreats minorities, and specifically the Bludish people. So I think in that regard, if he's talking about Bludish refugees who are trying to get into Bergia, I would agree with him. But if it's coming to just generally working with Velen in order to get closer economically, we do have very strong political disagreements here, I think, how things are supposed to work. Okay, so we could come... I don't like any of the answers. because, again, I am missing the context. What trade agreement? I don't mind a trade agreement. Mutual trade is not a bad thing. I disagree with the way that the government runs Velen. I disagree with the dictatorship. I disagree with the crackdowns on minorities, and I disagree with performative socialism. It's the worst kind of socialism. However, trade embargoes or refusing trade has always been has never been helping the common people. It's designed to put pressure. So this is not what we're discussing. This is a tangent. But trade embargoes have always been designed to put to immiserate the life of the common people in order to get them to violently upraise and overthrow the government. For whatever country does the embargoes, own political and geostrategic purposes. This never helps the common people. So a trade agreement would improve stability and increase mutual trade. That is not a bad thing. We might disagree with Velen. We might consider them. We might consider the oppression of the people. We might strongly object that. But by not trading with them, are we making the life of the people better? Or are we going to? It's like, what is our goal here, right? Do we want to overthrow the government in Velen? Honestly, we have other problems. Do we have a moral imperative to never trade with a dictatorship? But then what? The ones suffering are not going to be the rich people in Velen or the dictator. They're simply going to continue. The ones going to be suffering are the common people on the ground, which means more refugees on our side, which means more instability on our side, which means more militant sentiment, which can spill over into Swordland. So I think if we can maybe we can make a trade agreement that comes with conditions. Maybe we can make a trade agreement that said oppression of Bludish minorities needs to end. And then we're happy to, because it affects us, because that sort of stuff spills over. Plus we had refugees during the Civil War coming over, and then we have to deal with that sort of thing. Make that not be our problem, and then we're happy to trade. So that would be leverage. So I think that is a good way of doing this. Why help such a disorganized state? What we can do to help them. Look, this is in our own interest, right? I think the trade agreement is going to be trade. So it seems like we don't have a trade agreement. He's looking to normalize relationships between our countries. So he's clearly looking for improving his international standing. At the end of the day, it is up to the people how they do this. But what we can do is we got two options. We can either say, no, we will never deal diplomatically or economically with your country because we disagree with your form of government. That is going to lead to more instability, potentially uprisings, more civil war, etc., more refugees, more problems. Or we can say, we're happy to trade with you, but here we have a few provisions, and this isn't us meddling in your internal politics, because we're sharing a border, and whenever you start cracking down on the Bludish minorities, we have things going boom in our side of the border. So stop that. And then we're happy to do this. So if there's enough profit in that for them, they might do that. So I don't think we're paying anything, and I don't think this would solve the problem. Mutual trade is always beneficial, and this is why I'm struggling so much, because I'm lacking so many details here. It's like, what are we trading? Is it us importing things? What is the trade agreement? Is it lowering of tariffs? Is it us increasing imports of raw materials from them for nothing in return? What is the trade? But okay, in general terms, a trade agreement would improve stability and increase mutual trade. Let's put it that way. There would be many bargaining chips discussed, but Velen could be a new partner in the region. We could also invest in stability there. And like I said, we have a mutual interest in stability, and maybe we can. I think the bargaining chips would be is an interesting point that he brings up there, and I think he's right. Diplomatically, you have to go beyond ideology in that regard, and see what's best for the people of the countries. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis like the late 20s. So that civil war had major security and economic repercussions on Sordish soil. I agree. One of the demands of President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws so the political refugees don't escape to Swordland. There has been a recent purge that pushed many Bludish to flee to Bergia. It is definitely troubling. Can we make that quid pro quo, though? Can we get... so it's clear what he wants. He wants us to close the border. That isn't going to help because there are family ties, there are other cultural ties between the minorities and all kinds of stuff. So he wants to close the border to make sure that he can eradicate the minorities in peace. And I think that's not something we can work with. I think our leverage should be should be in a way to ensure that he is improving the treatment of minorities in return for better trade agreements. Gumran Outpost has regained its importance due to this. I'm sure you would remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President. Yeah, I let the people through. He was right. I did remember that winter. I remembered how cold it was when I let the refugees slip through. I was discharged of my duties as a result by Mayor... Oh, that was... Oh, yeah, somebody mentioned that in somebody mentioned that in the comments, I think, that he was actually the commanding officer when I did that. I was discharged of my duties by Mayor Jan Lanseher, no less, spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in a cell. In fact, there had been a similar refugee situation in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to disobey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. Yeah, you had to bring that up, didn't you? Okay. Again, no good answers here. No. Past is past. Let's move on and say, okay, just move past that. That would be okay, let's sweep it under the rug. I could challenge him on it and say, but again, the nuance is missing. Was it right to do this on a humanitarian level? Yes. Was it right to do this on a military chain of command level and obedience of orders? No. The government at the time had given strict order to not let refugees in, and we disobeyed these orders, and I got rightfully punished for that. I could effectively tell him that we're enemies for life because I hate him. But I think we'll. He's clearly enjoying this. I think the best part is to just move on and not give in to his attempts at power plays here. So what's done is done. The situation is much more complex than you might. What I would have liked. The situation is much more complex, like you might want it to look like. Certainly, I disobey orders. That is correct, and I was punished for it, and that is correct. And it was a decision I made out of humanitarian considerations. And sometimes, decisions have consequences. So, at the same time, obviously, I did disobey an order. So was it completely right what I did? No. There's no black, white. They're gray. They're shades of gray. Past is past. Let's move on. David cut in. Our focus should be on the current matters. Okay, yeah. We are going to have... he's not happy with that. The Bludish minority is very large inside Velen too, which is a factor to consider. It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on our western border. Agreed. And it is in our national interest to sort out the discrimination against Bludish minorities in the region, and that includes Velen. Velen has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Communist Alliance, another point to analyze. Yeah, because this is something we want to do as well, but that is not ideological. That's not a reason for us to become brotherly nations with Velen, because I do disagree with the dictatorship approach. Okay, let's talk about Valksland, something positive for a change. I think my own position on Valksland is, from what I know, is relatively clear. Be interesting to see what the three of them think, especially Josef. Josef might be problems as well. Our cousins of old across the Markian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Valksland is a socialist republic aligned with United Kontana. They are an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in almost all of Mercopia. Okay, that's good to know. It is the only country that can rival the superpowers with their navy. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Understandable. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hegel. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future. Breaking the ice with Valksland could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. I would say, number 4, which I would like to say, I personally admire the well thought out economic and political system in Valksland. It is something we should strive to imitate, and as such, I would like to improve our relations with them. Everybody had a war with each other in the last century. This isn't necessarily a reason not to get on with it. Breaking the ice with the best I can do is breaking the ice with Valksland could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. I agree, they could be potential allies in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. I agree. They haven't been in... Okay, of course he's got problems with that again. They haven't been in good standing with us for the past 200 years. Recently, they have also joined the Kontanan Security Pact, subjugating themselves to United Kontana. He is going to be problems. We are going to have issues with Josef. He seems to be a staunch anti-communist. He hates me. And for disobeying orders, which is understandable because he's a military man, and disobeying orders is basically treason in his opinion. And yeah, he is probably he's bound by historical grievances, and he sounds extremely nationalist. So I think Josef is one that we need to watch out for. The reason I'm saying that is because, of course, our options, I mean, he is my Minister of Defense, but our options with the military are going to be generally difficult. So we will have to, I think we will have to, if we are to join the Kontanan Security Pact, or at least have more close relations east, we are going to have to be very wary of a potential military, I would almost argue military coup on our side. Nationalism is strong within the military. So a shift left is going to be very difficult if we are running into more and more disagreements with the military. So I'm going to have to probably give him something, maybe increased military budget, in order to keep him on our side. On top of that, territorial issues have been flaring up between Agnolia and Valksland because of the Helgeland island. The Swedish Navy is very concerned with this volatile situation. I'm assuming that it's this island, the one that has the lines in it. Okay, so we've got the Democratic North, which has some odd requests when it comes to immigration, but otherwise is a long-standing partner. we've got Valksland, which we had historically grievances with, but which also has changed a lot from its political structure, which has lots of fjords, and is very key, and we are very keen on close alignment with. But there are territorial disputes about this particular island over here. Lucien looked slightly worried. I can see why. Unfortunately, billions of Swordfish Ren worth of cargo is transported close to Valkslandian maritime borders on the Marquian Sea and the Grey Strait. Yeah, because we are exporting from here through the strait. the strait of completely not Hormuz, which has oil exports that we need to get through. So any kind of disagreement here would be a significant problem economically, diplomatically, and militarily. So we'll have to. So we've got three things to balance. We will have to find if we can work with Valksland and Agnolia to find a diplomatic solution for the island, then which would improve the stability here, then that would be an important move. We might have to see what kind of levers we have against Agnolia. This causes significant risks to our imports and exports in the case of a deterioration in relations. So yeah, we can't let these two start duking it out, because that'll affect us as well. Strait is of high strategic value to us. Yes, it is. Josef, the Navy is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right? I think the important part here is from a distance, right? You're not sitting right next to it, just itching for another fight with Valksland. We are actively monitoring the sea routes and cargo ships. For now, there is no immediate threat, but we don't know what can happen in the future. Translated, that means we are patrolling. We're showing presence, and we are fully expecting a rematch against the Valkslandian Navy, which we are going to lose because we just established that it is one of the strongest navies around, and all of that out of some nationalist ideas of historic revanchism. Let's move on. Yes, indeed. Two important neighboring countries remain, Lesbia and Rumburg. Which would you like to hear about first? Oh, this is going to be a long episode, isn't it? Okay. Let's start out with Lesbia, because once again, maybe Rumburg would be an opportunity to lead to something else, but we'll see. What about Lesbia? Our southern neighbor is aligning itself more and more with Arcasia. Yeah, I figured that much. Lesbia is currently led by Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in Eastern Mercopa. Or are they? Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality. Okay, so typical capitalist state. Nothing else to see. Our past relations have been great, but during the last decade, their investments in Swordland dwindled due to our instability. Understandable. Okay, we could ally with we're not allying with Lesbia because they are going clearly into the Arcasian alliance, and that is also strategically going to be interesting. Also, they had, if I remember correctly, they had some troubles with there were some troubles here with oil somewhere in this area. It's a sleeping giant. We should not awaken them. They keep turning a blind eye towards the region, thinking that Lesbia is above it all. Now, to be fair, primarily, we can't be salty about them not wanting to invest in our country. There's no law of the universe or God-given right that we have for an investment from them. I think let's try not to antagonize them as much as possible. Is probably, I don't think outright allying with them is the right direction. Let's try not to antagonize them unnecessarily, because we already have enough problem as it is. They surely are a powerful nation. Despite that, they don't tend to meddle in the region and haven't for a long time, with the exception of Velen. Let's not antagonize them. I agree. I'm certain that the recession has a lot to do with their retraction of investments. Okay, that's interesting. So we're getting some more insights into. I know that I had one in my notes that foreign investments were lacking, but where exactly they were coming from, now this is becoming a bit clearer. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly because they are capitalists. Oh, are you a closet communist? Good man, David, Comrade David. I appreciate that sentiment. They have shown a selfish attitude during the Valen Civil War by closing their borders and funneling refugees to cross into Swordland. They also have a minority, but yeah, they clearly couldn't give less than two craps about some minorities in some borderlands, as long as the rich people can maintain their boats in San Mantua and sip their champagne, which probably comes from over here. Lucian cleared his throat. Yeah, our values are too different. It will be hard to see eye to eye. I agree. We are striving to be a socialist republic, socialist country. We're looking after the poor, not after the wealthy. Human rights is a large issue that we will have to deal with. First of all, domestically. But we can certainly, at some point, also make our weight be felt regionally and become more influential in that regard. And yeah, I don't think it'll hard to see eye to eye. Very interesting actually, that Josef is, oh no. My first thought was, actually, he cared about the refugees. No, he didn't care about the refugees. He just cared about the fact that that they were on our side of the border. He would have much rather see them somewhere else, and that's why he's upset. Hard to see eye to eye. I completely agree. Lesbia has for a long time benefited from us through our old tariffs. They are after exploitation. Yeah, there are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some made significant business investments in the cities of Benfi and Valgen. Yeah, they would be, because this is the sort of holiday region that the rich and famous would go to get, cheap meals, cheap accommodation, and good wine. What's the situation with Rumburg? Yeah, now we're getting to the point. Let's see what Josef has to say. I mean, I know what Josef's got to say, but... now to the most troublesome nation, Rumburg, a constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. I highly advise caution and calculated action against Rumburg. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real. For once, I actually agree with Josef here, although I am still on the position that I would much prefer a diplomatic solution to counter them rather than trying to counter them militarily. So I would much prefer to have close ties with Valksland, potential, and I would go as far as to say we should join United Contana and get effectively a guarantee from get a guarantee from the East, a guarantee of independence from the East, such that a Rumburgian invasion would trigger a much larger problem for them militarily and economically, and would deter them that way, rather than building it up ourselves. But of course, he wants to have more money for the military. They're strong and have the motivation as well as the means to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reasons to pursue aggression. I am starting to feel that this is a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? They don't need a reason. You just said they have the motivation. They already have all the reasons they need. I think what he means is a diplomatic reason, as in They already have all the reasons they need to attack us. Now all they need is the window dressing. So we need a casus belli. We need a, oh, you have oppressed our minorities. Oh, we will no longer tolerate your border incursions. And since 5 o'clock this morning, we are returning fire. That sort of thing, you know. Okay. I can be neutral. I'll take your advice into consideration. The Rumburg is and always will be a roguelike state, and nothing can be done about them. Full of dungeons, is it? We must prevent them from interfering in our affairs. So I strongly suspect that Rumburg has something to do with weapons deliveries to has something to do with weapons deliveries to the to militants in Swordland. That by itself is, of course, a problem. Now, can we prevent that? Well, if we want to prevent that, then this would potentially we'd be having to tread very carefully because we have no leverage against them. So everything there has to happen under the table in order not to give them the casus belli that they want. I think I'm going to stay neutral here. I'm just going to say I would take your advice into consideration. These types of nations will always try to make up a casus belli, a reason to declare. Literally what I just said. Thanks, David, for confirming that. While Thornborough openly denies such claims, their past and current actions make it clear that they want to destabilize us. Yes, I agree. The weapon caches found by our intelligence agency clearly shows what their goals are. Our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant. I agree. You also have looked stern and full of resolve. Yes, the Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities. Absolutely. Because everything else pales, right? It's cute that we have political disagreements. It's cute that we have a recession. It's cute that we have poverty. Oh, your significantly more powerful neighbor has the means and the motivation to invade your country. If they do that, all of these problems are no longer your problems. Because the primary problem is you're not going to have a country anymore. So yes, Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities. Can be assured of that. We are always in dialogue with our Rumburg ambassador to make sure a channel is open to solve disputes. Yeah, this isn't a dispute, however. They are. This is colonial aggression from Rumburg. That's pretty clear. We could use their aggressive attitude against them by convincing the international community. Haha! Are we going to have a League of Nations kind of situation? I think this is not a terrible idea. I have floated that in the past. I would still personally prefer to, if somebody actually allowed me to say it, to join the United Contana in the Security Pact and then simply say, all right, now bugger off you. But of course, Lucien is seeing that on a more neutral way. He grabbed the Lochhaven Times newspaper and put his finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident. The abrupt announcement about the closure of the Rumburg consulate in Lochhaven is yet another step in their escalation. Yes, it is. This covers the overview of the current situation. We will move on to our trade choice and the response to Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. Okay. The sun began to set over the hills surrounding Lochhaven. The team was ready to give advice on the new trade initiative and the response to the latest diplomatic incident with Rumburg. Petr arrived late. He looked a little rougher than usual. It must have been the drinking from last night. I'm going to have a word with him afterwards, because while he has been one to go for the drink easily, it's not. He hasn't been really letting it affect his performance in office. So maybe there are other problems out there. Let's see. Hey there, folks. Excuse my delay. I'm sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know. Yeah, Petr, that's the usual. That's your usual stance, isn't it? You were still supposed to be part of this meeting an hour ago. Punctuality is important. We are talking about serious subjects here. Now there are three ways I can do this. I can cover for him, I can publicly reprimand him, or I can let the comments stand. Now he is clearly, something must have happened. I don't feel like he's been like, okay. Let's go with the assumption that he's been drinking heavily. Why has he been drinking heavily? Personal problems, maybe. But he cannot just show up nonchalantly and he cannot just show up nonchalantly and be and kind of like hours after the basically miss the whole meeting. That he has a position to fill, and if he's incapable of filling that position, then I need him to step back. Now, do I want to do this in front of the cabinet? Because he is my vice president, he is my best friend. This is the first time this has happened. So I could cover for him and then sort this out in private. Now, Lucien isn't stupid. Josef would probably accept this, but this would also set a bad precedent. This does set a bad precedent because it would show favoritism on my side, and that is not a good look for the president. So as much as, see, this is why you keep friendship and business apart. As much as a friend, I would like to, cover for him. But at the same time, we have responsibilities here, and you can't be the vice president of the country and just show up late and looking disheveled. So making such an obvious excuse would show a degree of favoritism that I think is not would be unprofessional. I could double down on it, but I think that is also he knows. Everyone else knows, and he knows that this wasn't acceptable. And I need to follow that up with him, ideally in private. So I think the best action here is not to comment. I don't need to double down in front of everybody because it's already been said. This would be, however, the right answer because we have responsibilities here. That said, we're all humans and things happen. But then talk, right? Give notice, make a phone call. If you have personal problems that inhibit your capability of fulfilling your duties, then we need to know that. But do we need to do that in front of everybody? Not necessarily. I think I won't comment for now. So he knows that he's out of bounds. They know that he's out of bounds. And I know that he is. And I know that he knows. So hopefully I get the chance to follow that up with him in private. It was a one-time thing. Let's just get on with it. Okay. So yeah, I do need to follow that up with him. Because Lucien and Josef looked at Petr before David moved away from the subject. And the vice president will be part of the trade delegation, so it will be great to have his input on that subject as well as on the Romborg incident. Romborg consul, that was his barb. Romborg consul Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of the 120-year-old consulate. Now their diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Swordland due to the assassination and the subsequent protests. But it is obvious that they are making excuses. Bastards! First they close their consulate and then they blame ours. Okay, shut up, Josef. Their concerns... The security situation is not under control. Their concerns could be genuine, but the reaction is unnecessary. Do I want to antagonize Joseph even further? Because he's very, very clearly made the point that he sees this as a personal affront. I'm, again, missing a bit of context here. What is the current security situation? I haven't heard back from Lilias in a while. I would have thought that political violence in the street would be something that I would be getting updates about twice a day. Yet here we are. I would assume that it is still somewhat under control, and side with Joseph here. Or I could effectively sideline him again. So I don't like Joseph. Let me put it that way. But I need the military on my side for the kind of changes we're making. So I think when it comes to, look, there are people I can antagonize and there are people I can't antagonize. Unfortunately, to my great displeasure, the military is one that I can't antagonize because, we've been here before, haven't we? So I think playing into his hand a little bit is probably wise, especially that he already has a very low opinion of me. And making sure that we don't unnecessarily antagonize. So I have to pick my battles with Joseph, and this isn't one of them. So let's assume for now that the security situation is under control and that they're playing with us. Isn't it telling that other countries are working with us while Rumburg is just cutting more ties? Yes. The neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Also, Alfonso was all in on, they probably clearly haven't paid him enough. Now there are only 2 Rumburg diplomatic missions left in Swordland. One is the consulate in Deir, and the other is the embassy in Holsword. So we can brush it off. I must display strength to my people. We can't be pushed around. Yeah. Look, again, we don't have a God-given right to them having an embassy in our, just because it's been there for 120 years. It's clearly a signal that they're sending. I think we are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but it is far more serious. Because it looks like they are preparing for, they will be preparing for a casus belli, and David has said it. They're playing with fire. Look at what the Valen destabilization has done to the region. Swordland breaking apart would tear Mercopa apart. Yeah, but that's what they want, right? Weak neighbors that can be invaded, pillaged, and otherwise militarily attacked without repercussions. That's what they're after. In my entire career, I have never seen our Rumburg relations suffer this much. The previous low point was the War of Broken Wills. Okay, let me read up on that quickly. Sorry, this is becoming a bit of a longer episode due to the very difficult topics that we're discussing. The War of Broken Wills was a territorial conflict rooted in a transnational inheritance dispute over the resource-rich Dome region between Rumburg and Agnolia. Okay, Agnolian High Court invalidated the will of Grand Duke Ostric von Denwald and nullified their family claims. So this was back in the sort of important family clan kind of time. After the accession of the 16-year-old Queen Livingston, governance remained under the regency of Duke Wolfsbury, and the military operations were launched in December. Rumburgian forces advanced rapidly. Battle of Dome lasted several months before the city fell. As the war expanded, major engagements were fought, and the conflict widened across land and sea. In an effort to break the growing stalemate, Rumburg launched a naval offensive in the Valgos Channel and the Markian Sea, which was halted at the Battle of Gelport after reinforcements from Haleport and Stalport secured coastal positions and disrupted supply lines. In the final 6 months, the front stabilized and the conflict stalled, with mounting casualties driven by disease, infrastructure collapse, and supply shortages. The situation was compounded, and the Kingdom of Erdmark opened a second front along the ridge frontier in late 23, escalating the War of the Ridges. Political pressure within Rumburg intensified as anti-war factions. This is the First World War, basically. Parliament and Queen Beatrice herself pressed for negotiations, leading to the fall of the region's government and talks about culminating in the Treaty of Constantium, which formalized the territorial settlement and established the Dome economic zone. So why did we have... so effectively saying we are at wartime relations with Rumburg at this point. There are worrying developments like the smuggled arms and the build-up near the border. Our military must be buffed up to stand against a great power like Rumburg. We either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic condemnation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome. I want to say that an escalation would be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumburg in the international scene. People of Swordland must be protected no matter the cost. I say we respond equally. No, Josef. Shush. I know you want to go to war, but no. If all you have is an assault rifle, everything starts looking like a target. We should not retaliate, because that's basically just playing into their hands. I don't think we're going to get a League of Nations equivalent of condemnation for Rumburg. Maybe we can still play the I think it was called Alliance of Nations or something. We can still play that card, but we should do it in either case, because if Rumburg, what we need to counter right now. Look, I appreciate Josef's mindset of let's beef up our military to prevent them from invading. But look at the size of the place and look at the size of ours. We need to prevent war from breaking out. And yes, we can do that in two ways. We can make it too costly militarily. And that was actually a good tie-in from what David just mentioned. So in the last war had been effectively fought into attrition and stalemate. But this is very costly for both sides. So going to war with Rumburg would economically ruin us. The better way of doing it is to deter Rumburg diplomatically. The best way, which is the option number 3 that I don't see here again, is to say we need to have a rapid talks with one of the major alliances, preferably the United Contana, and get international backing against Rumburg. Military alliance and make an end of it. Maybe we can ally with Valksland and make a joint statement saying that an attack against Swordland would be considered. We don't have the best standing with them yet. I think the most interested, the best chance we would have would be Contana, simply because they already have shown clear interest of just increasing their sphere of influence, understandably, and being willing to go to quite length in support. But for now, we'll write an official diplomatic response condemning the unreasonable act, declare that Rumburg aims to destabilize Swordland and the region. So let's call them out on it, make that public, and let's not go down the let's not yet go down the retaliatory route. Although this is actually, honestly, in terms of damaging, they're both pretty much equal. So I'm going to go with the diplomatic response. I shall begin work by immediately informing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Swaying the international stage is the key in long-term strategy. Thank you, Lucian. Yeah, Josef. Shush. I, on the other hand, am glad we are taking the more cautious road. There are 3 trade-related topics to address today. Which topics should we tackle first? Hang on, we haven't even talked about Risia. We should talk about the ongoing trade negotiations with our neighbors Velen and Agnolia. How about Valksland? Oh, I want to talk about Valksland. Game. I'm interested to hear the intentions of the Kingdom of Risia. Why are we coming to the Kingdom of Risia now? We haven't even discussed that previously. Okay, let's get it out. Let's get Velen and Agnolia out of the way, because at least there I have some background. Our primary goal will be to successfully sign at least one trade agreement with one of our smaller neighbors. We have 2 options with our trade initiative: starting new negotiations with our old partner Agnolia to the northeast, and forming a new cooperation with Velen to the west. Okay, give me some details, finally. Okay, tell me about the trade deal with Agnolia. First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic than economic, although of course we can't forego the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. The point we are at with the early negotiations is around the steel trade. They are demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. Okay, so we are talking tariffs or basically trade setting price floors in trade agreements. That is because they think that the deal is far too unbalanced as it is. The second main demand is a privileged access to our agricultural market. If we are to fulfill their demands, in return they're offering a full alliance with Swordland against Rumborg. Looking at the current advances of Rumborg near our borders, having a coalition against Rumborg would prove extremely useful. Obviously, there will be consequences for entering a full alliance. Mainly the issue is around Helgeland. Valksland has clear intentions on taking over the island one way or another, and entering a military alliance with Agnolia will make them furious. Yes, I don't see us doing that either. For that reason. And I think simply that a military alliance with Agnolia is not going to deter Rumborg. I mean, look at the place. I want to state my support for the decision to stick to our old ally Agnolia. Even though I disagree with their demand to relax immigration, we have cooperated with them on many issues in the past. There are obviously subjects that we would still need to tackle, like our economies, the traded goods, and what to do with immigration. My opinion is that it is a good deal and we should go for it. The new Agnolian Prime Minister is trying to improve the existing relationship. The downside is that we would need to make concessions, a reality of any trade deal. Okay. So everyone's in favor of this. We can't position ourselves against Valksland because this goes against my geopolitical direction that I want to go in. And yes, I see what all of you are talking about, but look, Valksland, militarily the better partner, more aligned with the ideas that I have in mind for where I want to get us in terms of governance. Just outright better position. And Agnolia is effectively asking us to buy the alliance, to purchase a military alliance. That's not a trade deal. That's blackmail. No, we can't position ourselves against Valksland. That is certainly a valid reason. If you decide that Agnolia is a good option, another point is that they have a very democratic system. After the recent elections, the PM has a mandate to arrange a fairer deal with us. Van Horten is also an avid supporter of relaxed immigration. Since we said we will tighten immigration, he might be reluctant. Regardless, if we are going to increase our regional influence to previous levels, we might need to make amends with our neighbors. Ultimately, the decision will be up to me, as always. Okay, tell me about the trade deal with Velen. Let's give me some details here. Dealing with a fractured country like Velen has its positives and negatives. Although it will be lucrative in the short term, there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. They are proposing co-investment projects and a no-tariff agreement. They are also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital interests from Swordland. However, it is possible that there will be international ramifications of getting closer with a country like Velen. All in all, this is a very lucrative deal for us. However, we need to think about the consequences. And of course, Josef isn't into that. I certainly don't support the decision to become friendlier with Velen. We carried their burdens for decades. Their migrants flooded our country, and now they're expecting a deal from us. Why do I have to deal with this guy? Maintaining influence with Velen could prove useful. Yes, it is risky, but think about the influence on an underdeveloped region like that. We could also sell more products and enter their market easily. So David is of the opinion that it's too risky. We would gain resources and immediate capital, but I'm afraid of the consequences. So basically, we have two options. We can either trade with a totalitarian nationalist dictatorship and try to improve the economic situation on the ground. Also, Velen is aligned with United Contana, which is the direction that I want to go. At the same time, there's risk, obviously, because if we are doing investments there, and if stability decreases, then our investments will be at risk. At the same time, we could also have higher profits in the future from this. Agnolia is the safer bet, but they're basically blackmailing us for domestic political gains by offering us a military alliance and in return for preferential trade agreements, which would cost us economically, and but much more importantly would isolate us diplomatically from Contana and significantly from Valksland, because we would be effectively, because of the military situation around the island between the two of them. So a military alliance with Agnolia, I think, is out of the question. If they had offered me beneficial trade agreements for both sides, then that would have been something we could have discussed. But all they offer, they basically want to be paid in order to go into a military alliance with us. And I feel like that is the wrong choice to make. It is risky to invest in Velen, but Lucien doesn't have a clear position. Of course, Josef hates him because he's a blockhead, and I am saying that as a bald man myself. Petr actually sees he's more of the gambler. David is saying that he's the most experienced in here. He's afraid of the international ramifications. Lucrative. Neither of these answers is what I want to say. I think we have more interests, we gain more domestically by helping stabilize Velen than we gain domestically from a military alliance with Agnolia. Of course, it's risky. Okay, you may be right. It is risky. I mean, I still get to decide. We'll see what comes of it. If we wish to go forward with a deal when the time comes, there's the topic of immigration to consider. Viktor Smolag is a known isolationist. Our promise to tighten our immigration policy will increase the likelihood of the deal. He believes our borders need better security. Lucien does not like the idea of getting too close to Velen. Neither does David. And neither does Josef. Petr is on board, though. Our campaign promised to steer Swordland towards the east, and United Contana will have an effect on... Thank you. Finally, we're getting to that point. especially with Velen. As you know, the current affairs of Velen are partly a result of United Container's support of Viktor Smolak. Our promise will come in handy. Yes, that is what I'm thinking. As for Agnolia, this promise has made them cautious, which might make it harder to get a good deal. We also need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine plan. The fact that we are headed towards a planned economy will have an influence. Good negotiators optimize the interests, which makes the difference become trivial, allowing both sides to reach a deal. That was a complete non-statement, Petr. Very true, Mr. Vectern. We have a lot of time to prepare before the scheduled visits to Velen and Agnolia. I believe this gives a brief overview of our current situation. Our trade delegation will begin work towards the end of the year. We expect final negotiations and the signings of the trade agreements to happen next year. I'm very much looking forward to visiting Stalport and Vraclavic with party animals like David and Simon. Okay, I need to have a chat with Petr. I hope I get the opportunity to have a conversation with him, because there is something clear. Like he's putting up a facade at this point. This is beyond, like, this is forced, right? This is beyond his usual easygoing. There's something noticeably wrong. He's been drinking heavily, and I need to talk to him about that. Josef narrowed his eyes and stared at him. Okay. Tell me about Rizia. Rizia was completely not in the conversation. The nation south of Lesbia is a centralized constitutional monarchy led by King Romos Toras, the grandson of Queen Eliza Toras the Great and son of King Valero Toras the Frail. The kingdom is a developed nation that wielded considerable influence in southern Mercopa before the reign of Valero. The country has lost some territory due to internal strife. Alfonso government signed vital trade agreements with King Romos Toras, benefiting both nations at a time of need. Attempts at further cooperation stalled out due to the king's blood ties to Rumburg. Yeah, because both monarchies. Okay. Does it matter what the blood ties are between them? Maybe, maybe not. It's always a downside of monarchist systems. I'm curious what our neighbors Lesbia and Velen get along with Rizia. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about Lesbia all that much, but let's see. Let's see what they say. There is some tension with both. It appears that since Lesbia's acceptance into the ATO, that was the Arcasian Treaty Organization, yeah, basically NATO. In 1950, most of South Mercopa has been heading towards a boiling point. Not to mention Velen's struggles with the BFF, an organization that we've long suspected to be armed by King Romos' in-laws in Rumburg. Relationship between Rizia and Velen is more complex than that. They were closely aligned under Valero's rule until Rumburg entered the play. Anytime Rumburg enters the play. Crap hits the fun. Mercopian geopolitics are a complexity of another caliber. We have enough issues to figure out. We can't worry about the problems of others. We have to, because it's regional politics, right? We might have problems, but I think this would get Josef to snigger. So maybe we'll point that out. Petr kept grinning. The rest of the room wasn't feeling it. Lucien knocked on the table. We should be more concerned with... Petr injected and reached in his pocket. Actually, a friend of Gus called Rusty gifted me this beautiful piece of full Rizian gold coin. They said it helps you find love. Look. Petr pulled on the ornamental coin and put it on the table. It was so polished that it caught reflections of light in the room. Lucien was clearly frustrated. What the hell, Petr? You're drunk. Let's move on. Thank you. Let's discuss the deal potential and what's on the table. From what we have gathered, there is no clear offer yet. The interest clearly seems to be more control over the gas produced and sold in Swordland. I suspect this must be related to the recent tensions on the coast of Palais. Yes, we heard about those. Mr. Menger is working out the details to get more concrete headline terms soon. Of particular interest are the gas fields in the Narbel area of the Nargis region. That must be related to Gazprom operations. Gas has ties with the people around that corporation. Even though there's another CEO, Alfonso is still its chairman. I did have the feeling that Gas had a lot of ties to certain corporations. That's something I'm a bit suspicious about as well. And yes, we had the offshore gas field problems and these things. Gazprom is a private corporation, a fact that limits our control over any foreign investment. Tarkin Sol's Energy Protection Act specifically limits the purchases of Swedish energy company shares by foreign nations to 10%. Alfonso adjusted the law in 1948 and increased it to 20%. Anything above that requires us to change the EPA. Ewald holds most of Gazprom's cards in his hands still. Who did we publicly embarrass? What did I miss? Let's have a quick look at Gazprom. Who's the current? Oh, Ewald is Alfonso. Right. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know you were on first person. It says right up here. Yeah, he's clearly very corrupt. I see a strong case for Tarkin Sol's regulation. Energy security is important. It's private, but it still sells most of the gas it produces to Swordland. Energy security is important for our nation, and we did say that we were going to potentially nationalize a few things, which is going to put us into bad positions with gas. I'm also curious about that maintenance issue there in the offshore gas production, because there was something weird going on that I didn't quite trust. Energy security is important for our nation. It is, especially if international trade starts breaking down. We're seeing an aggressive Rumburg, and we're seeing a heating up great powers confrontation, which will potentially have ramification. Will have ramification for things. At the same time, we also need foreign investment and foreign influx of capital. Gazprom is private, but it still sells most of the gas it produces to Swordland, right? I think so. Lucian knows more than me. Up to 70% goes to Swordland. This used to be higher, but international demand has seen Gazprom diversify its deliveries outward. Rumburg and Lesbia are increasing their demand each year. They have hungry industries waiting to be fulfilled. Fueling the Rumburg war machine is indisputably wrong. Yes. David coughed a bit and then continued talking. From our diplomatic channels, we can tell that Lesbia is still very interested in Swedish petrol, whereas Rumburg wants more gas resources. As a sovereign nation, we must protect our resources. Our energy independence is part of our national security concern here. Gazprom handles most of our gas production. I agree. So we can keep close control over critical resources, protect energy independence. As long as we can improve our economic resource extraction, we shouldn't care much. No. Tangent. We are mostly looking at industrial production. Industrial production is energy-based. Heck, you could even argue that technological achievement only makes sense if it can flow into industrial production, which is then energy-based. Energy is absolutely part of national security. So relying on foreign resources can have very, very negative consequences, and allowing domestic producers. This is, by the way, currently a bit of an issue in Australia, because for the longest time they have allowed the energy companies to charge very high prices domestically while they were selling off the resources internationally. This has recently, I think, been starting to change a little bit. But keeping close control over critical resources is in sync with our planned economic strategy. It is. should protect our energy independence, but we don't know the offers per specific. As long as we can improve our economy and resource extraction, we don't care where it goes. We do care because high energy prices are going to stifle economic growth. So this is basically a contradiction. No, keeping close control over critical resources is in sync with our planned economy strategy. In theory, centralization works, but it leaves little room for outside help when internal conditions are dire. If Risia wants to buy more than 20% of shares allowed by the protectionism law, then the government can step in to make changes to the EPA. Precisely, but we don't know if this will be the case. There's a scenario in which they might invest within the EPA limitations. We just have to hear more before weighing the options. Yeah. They never revealed much about their involvements to me, but I always had the feeling that Alfonso's crew was more linked to Gazprom than they seemed. I still don't trust Alfonso's I'm a philanthropist now thing as well. I have information that the CEO that replaced Alfonso is a loyalist. Alfonso still is the chairman of Gazprom and the de facto key figure. Additionally, National Business Council chairman Mikhail Avon, I think he was... Oh, yeah, I remember him. He was the one causing me some grief. And Gazprom Major have shares in the company and preside over the board. Oh, okay, that is something I didn't know. I had the feeling that Gas was a lot more involved than he was letting on to be. So yeah, he was arranging trade deals I think Gas is someone who we're going to have to keep a bit of an eye on. Yes, the shareholder links raise questions regarding Alfonso's and Manger's motivations. I agree. Power structure behind the scenes shouldn't matter much to us. Yes, it does. Affluent swords don't stray far from each other. Yes, they're capitalist. Down with the rich. Shareholder links raise questions regarding the motivations. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something I'd like to start bringing up in the open. This is a relatively trusted circle. In terms of corruption, I don't think Josef is corrupt. I'm sure that Lucian isn't, and I'm sure that David isn't. I'm reasonably certain that Petr isn't, but with Petr you never know. I suspect that the corporation isn't doing too well, and they are seeking investments. Any investment into Gazprom will enrich the owners, but might also lead to more jobs and growth. Any further comment? Esteemed cabinet members. The room went silent and no one stepped forward. It was noticeable how much people respected Vichy. He carried the soul of Swordland as a symbol of the past. I think this summarizes all we know and what we stand to gain, Mr. President. What are your thoughts? I don't look favorably towards a potential investment from Risia, especially when it comes to critical... Number 3, which I would have liked to take, is we need to create, my thoughts are right now, that we need to create an anti-corruption task force rapidly, because everywhere I look, I find more and more corruption. And that we will need into, if Gazprom is indeed struggling, we will need to look into plans to nationalize that. That's my thought. Unfortunately, the only options I having to say, yay, more foreign investment, or let's hear from Mr. Manger, who we literally just decided was, who I literally just said I have questions about his motivations. But let's hear about his insights. We can go into it with because I don't get the option that I want to. We're going with this one. If there's one thing Gus is good at, it's making deals. I'm curious how it will develop. It's mostly out of the hands of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for now. I will assist in analyzing the political implications. Thank you. Our support staff and I will be working towards the next steps soon after receiving more context from Mr. Manger. Our ambassador in Porto Drazon is in communication with Lorento Esquibel, the Risian Councillor of Foreign Affairs already. Well, that concludes our meeting, Mr. Rain. Thank you all for coming. right. The meeting concluded and the team dispersed. Our diplomatic action plan officially began. Apologies for the very long episode. Somewhat frustrating because I've been still, at least, especially in the beginning, because I often couldn't make the choices that I wanted to, or was forced to make choices of responses without being able to, without having all the details on it. I think generally for me, my position remains the same. I think we need to work. We cannot join a military alliance with Agnolia. As such, their offer will probably have to be rejected. We will need to look east towards Valksland, but we should try to find we should try to negotiate a peaceful resolution of the island question, because it would significantly any conflict here would significantly impact our foreign trade. We should nationalize critical industries, and we urgently need to deal with the corruption issue. So I would like updates on where we are with corruption and updates on where we are with domestic security. When it comes to Velen, I vehemently disagree with the government and its treatment of minorities. At the same time, ostracizing them and creating trade embargoes only increases the problems, and the problems never stay contained, because Lesbia has already clearly said in the past that they don't care. Let them starve over there, or let them eat cake, while we have, especially given our Bludish minority problem in Bergia, in the southern region, have been much more impacted by any instability. So Velen's stability, even under a government whose policies we disagree with, is of interest for us and is also making life better to a degree for the people in Velen. Obviously, we hopefully can use that leverage to influence the treatment of minorities and improve the overall situation here. That in overall concludes it pretty much. Graph still goes down. We are down to 3 budget from, I think, 7 initially. Our economy is still unstable, so we haven't really gotten anywhere just yet. But for now, I think that concludes this rather difficult situation. And I am wondering if the option, the game gave me the option of seeking closer ties with United Contana, but it seems to since then consistently been throwing spanners into the works whenever I try to do that. Like, why can I not why do I have to make a deal with Agnolia and Velen? Where's my trade deal with Valksland? Why do I have to decide on militarizing the border? Where's my security deal with the United Contana? Where these things should have been possible for me to pursue, in my opinion, although they aren't. So, political reality overtakes wishful thinking, and I will see you in the next episode, hopefully going a little bit more smoothly.